interesting theories choose resembles a two-headed dog. A god in duality, like harmony and chaos, or possibly the other middle world which are separated and being united together. In quantum physics, there is wave-particle duality.
99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's another Saturday. Yes, .99 recurring, Tom Neeson. Let's see, who was first today? Absent, was waiting. You were first. You were not absent, you were present in that moment. John H. Kingston III is back. A lot of solid regulars. I really appreciate that, guys. Manuel Gloda, Luminous Cloud, a Bronx Kick. So you calling a punk? The aforementioned Tom Meeson, which with a strange comment. I gotta understand this. Moister than an oyster. I don't know that one. Sounds funny though. Mikhail Olansky, hey, what's up? Save Techno, thanks for the plug, asking people to like, I appreciate that. Bergamo, Live Society, Lee Robinson. How many more names we got to go? DJ Emo's back, what's up? Oval Shrimp, Angelo Fajardo, Penrose Conjecture, Josh Holiday, Zelico, is that right? I'm not going to try the second half of that one. Here we are. It's the build-up. It's almost time to get going. We'll let her rip. All right. Let's put some hands in the air. Welcome. It's Selway's Techno Saturdays. That one really gets me going every time. I haven't gotten tired of it yet. It's been a long time since, well, the original was in the 90s, and then the remix that just got re-released in the early 2000s, and it's back. I actually got a nice comment from the label from Industrial Strength the other day. If any of you guys know Perk, plays very hard, brutal techno and makes very hard, brutal techno. He's really good. I've had the good fortune of playing with him in way back, really. But yeah, he played it recently at one of his gigs and said it went over. So I was happy to hear that people are, the big guns are still out there and they're using this as ammunition. So, I don't know. Do we need any gun metaphors? I don't think so. Let's avoid that. So here we are. It's 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs, Music Production School, online and in person in New York City and in Berlin. Also, we have our 343 studio program, subscription-based, as Abe likes to call it, a dojo. Abe has his Ableton dojo, in fact, that you should, check out and join if you're interested in getting a little bit more time with Abe Duque, who, as many of you know, has his live stream also every Friday, the day before me. I think we make a good team. And, of course, Tetro on Tuesdays every now and again. Tetro Talks are doing the sample challenges. And I think we have a sample challenge coming up this week. A sample challenge results, as it were, coming up this week. So that should be interesting. Maybe some of you have actually joined in with that. And if you were ever interested in joining in on something like that, you would do that by, checking out 343 Studio. And so, there's links below if you're interested in that and other things. For example, those of you who are watching this show are probably into techno, right? I think so. We are, as well as electro. I do the electro too. And I have 343 Labs has me doing a 6-class online techno course. That is starting sometime this month. So also, Thomas will throw in links for that. I don't think there was a discount code. I'm not sure that that's still active now, but if you're interested, check out that link when that comes up, and you can sign up if you're ready to dive in, or just even register your interest. Let us know that it's something you're thinking about. So you can do all of that on our website. And we have our Discord, which is an ongoing join in the community, talk to your like-minded fellow producers and artists, and share what you're working on. And that's what we do here. We reach out to you guys, and we do our live streams, and we teach our classes, and I have fun being a total techno or electro nerd each Saturday at 1 o'clock here on the 343 TV YouTube channel. And on other platforms, right? There's at least 1 or 2 of you out there that watch on Twitch. We appreciate that. And maybe Facebook here or there. So, without further ado, Abe Duque is in the house. What's up? Abe Duque, definitely with the dojo. He is the dojo master. And let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. So I saw, honestly, actually, up until yesterday, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do today. But I realized this week, and this is in no way like a planned, supported, sponsored thing I'm about to say here, but FM8 has long been one of my favorite plugins for doing FM synthesis. I've used it to teach FM synthesis in our sound design course here. And I just, even though, the interface could be updated, it's been the same essentially for years. And, maybe because it's good the way it is. It's one of my favorite FM synths. It's very powerful. It does some cool things that other FM synths don't do. And I saw that there's a deal on this week. You can get this plugin for $10, which is just outrageously an amazing good deal. So highly recommend it. And again, I'm not getting a kickback for this, but I think it's Plugin Boutique is like 90% off on FM8. So if you don't have it already, grab it because it's awesome. If you want to, I think it's really good for as powerful as it is. And, even though it looks kind of confusing if you don't know what you're doing, it's still in a way a good, it looks like a science experiment. It's like very clinical with numbers and grids and graphs and things, which is appropriate, I think, for FM synthesis. But anyway, I saw that, and I haven't used it in a while, except for occasionally bringing it out in classes. So I thought it would be fun just to let's bring FM8 back out again, and we'll experiment a little bit and do some not too complex but cool sounding FM synthesis and make some techno while we're at it. So yes, Angelo Fajardo, did you say $10? That's crazy. Yes, $10. I mean, these you have to pay, like if you wanted to buy this by itself, it was like $100-something, so you have to get it as part of the whole complete package or whatever. So anyway, yeah, $10 for one of the best FM synths software, one of the best software-based FM synths ever. Yeah. So Angelo, I like this. Comment from Angelo. Angelo says it makes you feel like John Chowning. You guys know who John Chowning is, obviously. Some of you know who John Chowning is. But if you didn't know, he was sort of the composer, electronic music composer, who stumbled upon or discovered and then helped develop FM synthesis, right? So yeah, if you want to nerd out on sort of some history, look up John Chowning. There's some videos here and there, of course, on YouTube, and lots of documentation on what he's done, and others, of course, have done in terms of like discovering synthesis and things like that, and building up ways of synthesizing sounds. And FM is one of those, and it's one of my favorites. because I'm a nerd. It's like one of the aside from just pure like modular synthesis. I mean, of course, there's even more complex systems than this, but yeah, it's definitely up there. All right, Rosa, welcome. Raza says I use this plugin all the time. So yeah, definitely worth $10, right? Cool. Let's get into it. Let's just start nerding out. I've said this before. Sometimes I come on with the show with a little bit less prepared on purpose, and I think of it as like tightrope walking. Like, let's see what happens. We're gonna get a little experimental today, so stay with me. Hopefully, cross your fingers. We find something cool and exciting to do. But I do have something started, so let's see what that is right now. So pretty much the idea here is I'm gonna like start sketching out a track and making sounds only with FM8, right? Everything. So drums, other synths, bass, weird noises, all of it. FM synthesis and whatever, maybe we'll play around with some other effects, but I'll play around with the effects that are built into the synth as well. So for example, I already have just this kick drum with some rumble. And this actually was, this is my my fantastic preset that I started with that I made called It's a Kick. I think I did this in one of the classes. Real simple. Like anyone could do this. I'm going to turn all the effects off for a second. Actually, no, let's leave them on and go. Right. I might forget like which effects I use. So just bringing the amount down. It's like a wet dry for the whole entire effects chain at once. We'll go back over. And I guess, we'll break down a little bit of this for those of you who are unfamiliar with FM8 and maybe even FM synthesis in general. Right. But everything we're hearing is coming out of F. F is an operator. An operator is an oscillator and an envelope, basically, right? So we hear a sine wave. This is the amp envelope controlling the volume of the output of that operator. There's also, what's making this a kick is right now why it sounds punchy is this pitch modulation. There's a separate envelope that modulates the pitch or the frequency of all of the waveforms, all of the operators. Let's actually bring that. Actually, I can go back to F and say I don't want pitch modulation anymore. So now that's what we're starting with, and this is how you always start synthesizing a kick, whether it's FM or not. Is you're basically starting with a bassy waveform like a sine wave, low frequency, and pitch modulating it. And FM is awesome for making drums, right? Because you have a lot of control over, like very precise control over which frequencies you want to happen when. And also it's really good at bright metallic and sounds and noise, and a lot of drums have those elements in it, like they have metallic or ringy kind of elements, or they have noise in them combined with more tonal things. So yeah, just the pitch modulation makes it sound like a punchy kick drum. And, this isn't exclusive to FM8, but FM8 has these really precise, complex envelopes. You can add as many breakpoints as you want. They're totally flexible envelopes. All right, I don't want to mess with that. That's my modulator. We'll come in a second. Yeah, so this is a kind of an envelope shape that I do a lot for a kick drum. Is I'll have like kind of a double decay, right? So I have this 0 millisecond attack, and then I have a real fast sweep down, which is giving that little thump, and then a second sort of decay going down to the sustain. And this is all on the pitch, right? And this is giving kind of the round, thumpy mid-range of the kick. And then at the end, at the release, that it's all the way back down to its fundamental. In the release stage, you're hearing the lowest frequencies of the sound. And then there's your transient. There's your bright snap or stick or beater or whatever you want to call it. And that's where FM's really happening. So I'm using a more complex waveform. If it was just a sine wave, it would be less bright. And I'm tuning up the frequency at a high, so it's shifting up the overtones that are being created. But then I want a little bit more brightness, a little bit more noise in this, so I'm going to try a more complex waveform that has higher frequencies in it. And I like this short tri-state. It's like half the wavelength of the other one. Has a nice little sharp snap to it. And then, you know, again, I've got this real fast decay, and we're barely hearing it. It's just like in milliseconds of a burst of noise. Like that's what it's adding. That's without it. And that's it. That's, you know, pretty much 2-operator simple FM where I'm using the modulator, right? This isn't going straight to the output. The modulator is this operator that's going into F, which is called the carrier, and that's the audible signal that we're hearing. And then what I'm doing here in what they call the matrix here, you know, this is the other part of FM synthesis. You know, you have your operators plugged into operators, and they are either modulating or carrier signal, which is audible, and then you've got algorithms, which is how they're hooked up to one another. And what I love about FM8 so much is it's got a modular algorithm section. You don't have to, like DX7 and all the more classic, more typical Yamaha, John Chowning based FM synths give you dedicated preset algorithms. You can't choose. And so that's like, this is the first reason why I love FM8 so much, is you can put any operator into any order you want. And you can start from a blank slate. And this is also why I think it's great for teaching, because it's very clear, like that's, you know, E is not plugged into F. Now F is just, you know, our thump. And then, okay, I want to add brightness to this. E goes into F. Super clear. That's what's happening. All right. So there's my kick drum. And then since we're making techno, I wanted to pump this up a little bit. So now we have, you know, normally I would do something like this with effects, but I just thought, hey, since we're just sticking only to FM8, let's see what it can do. What does it sound like? So I've added a little overdrive to that just to thicken it up, dirty it up a little bit. I'm EQing it. I'm not 100% sold on that EQ, but... And then we've got some reverb. Right? Getting just not complicated, overly processed, just rumble, just space in the background. And then I thought, okay, I want it to be a little bit more rumbly, so how can I simulate that? And I'm using some sort of not synchronized delays, just a little bit of, it makes it sound like it's shaking a little bit. All right. So, all right, that was a lot about a kick drum, but I just wanted to throw in a little bit of, you know, FM synthesis basics for any of you out there that who are totally new to how FM works, right? So FM can get very, very complicated very quickly. Like once you go beyond a couple of, you know, a couple of sine waves and you start using more complex algorithms and you have multiple modulators, and it can get a little crazy. So another part of this is I'm trying to like make really crazy, cool techno sounds with very simply constructed, like not too many things to follow, right? So this was sort of the next thing that I came up with. All right, and then I'll go back to where we started. Just sine wave, right? Just a little percussive thing, quick decay, quick release. I made kind of a semi-swung, triplet-y kind of pattern that's repeating. And then I'm having this operator modulate itself, which is making it become more like a sawtooth wave, basically. And I can bring that into noise. Just that by itself is a cool techno sound, or an electro sound. There's also some unison detuning going on here. So we've got stereo panning on the separate voices that are detuned. And then this analog quality slider is basically adding sort of semi-random phase and detuning to the voices like an analog synth might when the oscillators drift. And it's creating interesting movement in that sound. And then I thought, all right, I want this to get crazier. Same setup as before. I'm using a modulator to add high frequencies to it. I also have the carrier detuned a little bit. That's something that we might play with, automating or modulating somehow, going more. You can hear when it goes out of tune, it gets more clanky, more metallic. Can also play with the release time on that carrier envelope. Pretty straightforward. So already just playing with the parameters on this really simple, kind of drifty, weird, detuned, sawtoothy, I don't know what this is, but it's some kind of a lead sound, right? Right. And, normally, different synths sort of have different ways of automating, modulating things. Honestly, like, modulation in FM8 internally isn't always awesome. I mean, you can do it, right? If you go here to the modulation section, you've got this modulation matrix where you can choose incoming MIDI or a couple of LFOs or a pitch bend or mod wheel or whatever, and have them control the operators, but they only do amplitude. But that's because it's, that's the way it works with FM synthesis, is that the amplitude is what's controlling the tone of the sound. So if you bring the amplitude of the modulator up, it gets brighter or darker or whatever. So that's pretty much, that's all you can do in the mod matrix. And that's cool. I could have an LFO going up and down. But another one of the things that I really like about FM8 is that it has this morph square. And, there's 4 quadrants, and each quadrant can be a different variation of the sound. So right now I've built up this whole sound with this red square in the lower left quadrant. And as soon as I move that towards any of the other ones, it goes back to whatever the default settings were before, which is just all sine wave. Abe asks, you can maybe modulate it with Max for Live modulators. Yes, of course you can. Any automatable parameter. I mean, that's the power of live here, right? I could automate any of these things or most of these things, although some of the parameters in the operators are not directly automatable. For example, going back to the expert mode, let's look at operator F. In other synths, I might like to do something like this, where I have short release, long release. That's a limitation of these envelopes in the operators. These are not automatable or modulatable. However, they did in the master section, actually, I'm sorry, in the easy section, easy morph section, these are macros that control envelopes. The timbre envelopes are modulators and the amplitude envelope are carriers. So these I can actually assign to a Max for Live modulator or any automation envelope. I could assign MIDI to these. Right, and you don't see it changing, but that's controlling all of the envelopes in each operator. And, it's always going to increase by a percentage or decrease by a percentage. That's why when you look here in the easy section that they start at 0, right? So 0 is the value that was set in the operator. This is going to make it longer or higher, and this is going to make it shorter or lower. That's pretty much how that works. All right, we got that. But anyway, let's get back to the morphing thing. So in addition to being able to modulate those envelope parameters using those easy macro controls, we can do really drastic changes to the sound using the morphing. Or just use it like a filter, right? That's going back to the sine wave. That's going to the more complex, bright setup with the modulator. But you can also like normalize the timbres. Now they're all the same. And then I could go in and make adjustments to these. So what happens if I go to like this top left quadrant? You know, it's funny, I didn't originally think I would turn this into a FM8 tutorial, but hey, that's what it is. Right, so now we're in a different quadrant. You can also control it up here while you're on the parameter view, on the master view, or expert, I'm sorry, the expert view is what they call it. And now I can go between these two tonal variations. I can't morph the envelopes, but I could do that separately with some other kind of automation or modulation externally. All right, let's change it again. I'm gonna make this one, let's detune it like weird. Maybe not the modulator. What happens if I do the carrier? Give it a little more noise. Okay. Let's do one more variation. It's gonna be more, it's gonna make a kind of a pitch bend effect as I'm bringing the tuning down. Let's see how that sounds. All right. Did you notice something happened? It kind of jumps. Right, so not all of the parameters interpolate smoothly. Sometimes they jump. But it's okay, it could sound cool. All right, we've been listening to that sound for a while. It's starting to drive me a little bit nuts. Let's take a look sort of at the next idea that I had. I needed, after all that bright noise. Well, all right, let's hear it in context. I wanted something kind of bassy and droney underneath it. All right, so again, similar setup. Using this soft square. And there's no effects on this, right? So sort of it sounds like it's processed. What we're hearing again is unison detuning. And we have some, E is modulating F. It's detuned a little bit, just as in the other one. But what's giving it the growly dirtiness is definitely that feedback. Yes, Abe Duque, FM works great for techno. That's why we're doing this. This is a $10 plugin that can make a universe worth of techno all by itself. So this time I'm also doing feedback on the modulator, and because of the detuning, it's and the unison. I don't know if you hear it. Sounds like it's swirling. It's really trippy. And we're getting some crazy, these are, if you look at this sort of graph up here, this is showing us the sidebands. It's showing us the frequencies being created by the FM. And if you look closely, there's some really crazy comb filtering happening in the high frequencies. That's what's making it do this weird phasey, swirly thing with the detuning and the unison. Oh, too much. Starting to break up. Another thing you might notice is Well, all right. I think I already sort of mentioned that when you do the feedback and you're starting with like a sine wave or something close to a sine wave, it's really sort of turning it into like a dirty sawtooth. You're getting like every ordered harmonic, right? So that's why it has that like growl to it. It's like we're hearing the teeth of the saw scrape across. Like I was thinking, I was playing around with this before and I had the ratio lower. You start to hear the pulses more clearly as the frequency slows. You hear that, right? It's like, all right, I'm just kind of losing its musicalness now, but I still kind of like that as a texture. There it is. I was looking for getting, it's like a stick in your ears. It's like this really sharp, like, I don't know, there's these certain frequencies that really get you. All right, but that's a bit much. I think that's where I sort of started earlier. Let's go back to it. Now I can actually hear the pitch. It's not too low. And the out of sync modulation, or no, it's not modulation. It's like the beating between the detuned oscillators is creating kind of a polyrhythm almost, or a swing. Let's hear what this sounds like a little less, with less release. Abe is coming in with some really good comments. Speaking about sort of unifying software and hardware. I use Dext to make sounds and export them to my Volca FM. Yeah, Dext is an amazing free FM synth. I guess that's how you beat $10 for FM8, is Dext is free. If you really don't want to spend $10, go for Dext. It doesn't have this though. It doesn't have the modular algorithm matrix, which is that's really what makes it for me, this one. Speaking of, let's do something crazy. I'm going to create my own feedback loop. I'm going to add another carrier. It's starting to talk now. That's nuts. Actually, this is really a feedback loop. Now I'm going out of F into D, D's going into F. It sounds like it's about to explode now. It's about to like blow up. Little bit of a musical change. I thought it would be cool to make that bass note go up and down every now and then, change that harmony with the augmented lead up there. I think it's a little bit much with all that feedback. I think I like this better. It's adding punch. I think like it's funny when I listen to this and I realize this is going out to the public on the internet. Like this is something like you really have to like techno and like dark techno to groove with this. It's pretty. It's a little bit kind of sharp on the ears, especially early on a Saturday. So anyway, let's take a breather. Let's take a break here. It's a little bit past the halfway point today on Selway's Techno Saturday. It's 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs Music Production School. And yeah, we're having fun. doing really intense but not too overcomplicated FM sounds for apparently dark, hard techno, hypnotic dark techno today. That's sort of how this ended up, especially if I start adding like reverb and stuff to this. So yeah, let's check in with the chat and see how everybody's doing. You guys are having some Abe's really holding up the conversation. I want to thank you for that. Oval Shrimp says, got that Nightcrawler vibe. Yes, I would say that's what's happening here. It's like kind of dark and sinister vibe in this groove going on. And Manuel Gloda says, Tom Hades brought me to FM for techno. Yeah, I mean, FM synthesis has been one of the main kind of sound sources from the beginning, especially even, well, all different genres and varieties of techno, but like early Detroit stuff definitely has a lot of FM, strong FM presence in some of the, you know, late 80s techno from Detroit. You heard it in like EBM and industrial dance music in the 80s as well. A lot of that, if you think of like, let's say Nitz or Ebb, you know, join in the chant, that sort of bass sound is all FM. It's really good at that kind of aggressive, sharp sound. It's like a little, you know, it's got metallic, it's grindy and full and bassy. FM is great for bass sounds. And then, all right, not techno, but like more modern kind of EDM stuff. Like Skrillex, I have to mention, as far as like complex modern FM synthesis, like a lot of those sounds have a lot of FM in them. So yeah, and anywhere from what we're into, like more underground techno, to more intense sounds and commercial styles, there's FM is probably more common than ever now that we have these amazing software tools. Oh, Gunther made a cool comment here. FM is great for sounds that gradually break down. That's interesting. Like, I want to hear you elaborate on that. Like, what do you mean exactly by breakdown? I think I know what you mean. Like when you push them too far, especially using the feedback, and it starts to kind of get. It's specifically with the feedback. It starts to kind of, I don't know, sound like it's about to tear itself apart. It starts to kind of, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's because of the distortion and the noise, I think, where it starts to get that roughness around the edges, or that, you know, like the noise just starts to creep in. But maybe you meant something else, so I'd be curious to know. Let's see, what else are you guys saying? Abe's really holding down the conversation in there, which is awesome. Yeah, you guys are all just going on about different hardware. Absent says, I love that FM8, but it kind of crashes with the browser function if you have too many presets. All right. That's another issue, right? I mean, okay, that might depend on like what kind of computer you're using, or I haven't had any problems with the browser or anything crashing with FM, so I'm sorry that you did. But so far I've had pretty good luck with FM8, and it's actually also not super processor intensive. I mean, maybe if I use like play big huge chords with like, you know, 16 voices or something, but like for the most part, FM in general is usually pretty light on the CPU. So I should be able to get a lot of tracks out of using just FM synths that are not like doing crazy unison voices and stacked, you know, kind of stuff. Nice. And okay, here's what Gunther says. You can take a good sound and then you push the feedback further. At some points it goes into noise, but you still have the underlying, underlying harmonics. That is exactly, we're on the same page there. And I love to do that, especially with really intense kind of sharp sounds like what we're doing here. Okay. Let's see what else we can do with this particular kind of intense groove I'm doing. And now is the real tightrope walk. Now is where I have that. Now I have to make something in front of you guys and make it work. And we could do it. All right. Let's lose the lead for a second and just go work on maybe some rhythmic stuff, percussive stuff. thinking. I'm listening and I'm thinking, like, what needs to happen here? I mean, it could just be individual drum hits, make a couple more percussion sounds. Let's do a hi-hat. All right, I'm going to start by just putting in another MIDI clip. Let's just do a upbeat, in between the, typical where the open hi-hat goes. And we'll figure out, like, how I need to set the modulation up to create, like, metallic, noisy, hi-hat-like sound. It doesn't even have to be, like, a realistic hi-hat. We just want that energy of high-frequency percussive noise where a hi-hat would be. Also, we need a plugin. We need another FM8. That would help. All right, obviously not what we want. Let's bring that up a couple up. We've got a beep. How are we going to turn this into a hi-hat? Let's see. So I'm going to start adding sidebands to this. I'm going to start doing FM to this in series, right? Modulators, modulating modulators, modulating modulators. I'm also going to turn off, for now, I just turned off the release stage. So what's going to happen there is that, like, I don't need to worry about, I mean, I could have also just done this. I could have brought the release and the initial amount of the envelope up, right? I don't want the frequencies created by the FM to change over time just yet. So I want them to remain more steady. So right now, if I bring the initial value of the envelope up all the way, it's just going to be one value over time. It's not going to change this one, right? This envelope's changing over time. This one is not, right? And again, I could also just keep the sustain all the way up, turn the release stage off, and then there is no release. It's basically endless now. I'm going to arbitrarily detune it. You can hear it starts to get metallic and ringy, right? Let's do that again. Turn the release off. Detune it. We start to hear inharmonic, noisy frequencies in there. Let's do that again. Turn off the release. Route it into... There it is. Starting to get the high frequency now, the white noise in there now. I mean, this is how you make noise with pure FM. All right, not the most awesome hi-hat in the world, but it's a start, right? That's kind of, this is some other kind of FM basics here. Like, you can use nothing but sine waves and audio rate modulation to create noise. It has a tonal noise, though. It's not pure white noise. It's not all frequencies at once, but it's got that metallic ringiness like a cymbal would, or a piece of metal being banged on, which is kind of more what it sounds like right now. And now we just need to work on, like, getting it to have the energy and the tone, making it a little bit more unique rather than just a clank, clank, right? Like if I want it to be more of a closed hi-hat. Whoop! That's why we need the release. Always you need the release on the carriers. Otherwise it just plays forever. Really sharp, short, closed hi-hat. And then we can play around with the amount of modulation from the modulators. Got to be careful. You can hear how it goes towards more like you can hear the note you're playing depending on the amount, the tuning of each thing. That's better. A little more noisy. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of variation to this. Nah. And I lowered the velocity of those notes, but there's nothing responding to velocity in the synth. So I want to go back and let's see. If I have the velocity control the modulators, the tone's going to change at different velocity levels. It's kind of cool to have it turn from a hi-hat into a beep or a bleep or something like that. It's interesting. All right, well, let me go back and remove that velocity assignment, and then just going, if I do it just to the carrier, now it's how loud it is. Let's add some add some effects to this. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is always when you're making percussion sounds, high frequency percussion sounds, is, and FM does this, whether it's subtractive and you're starting with white noise or you're using FM, there's a lot of frequencies in there that we actually don't want. I mean, it's mostly high frequencies, right? It sounds super bright. We want to use either an EQ or a filter to cut out low frequencies, probably, because it's making a bunch of frequencies that they're louder than you think, and it could muddy up the mix. So you definitely want to think about that. In the synth, there's a filter, and I can go back to the matrix here. Z isn't an operator, Z is a filter, and I can route through that and then out to the master, and then let's make this a high-pass filter. All right, there's two filters in series. I'm just going to use one of them. That's better already. It already sounds more like a hi-hat rather than like... Yeah, it's just giving it that little resonant boost as well. Right. That's good. Now let's go back to the effects. A little bit of metallic comb filter type sound to that. Is it working? I don't know. It's something. We're getting there, right? It's a groove. It's a dark, weird, sinister groove. I feel like I need to work on that lead sound and make it get weird, develop a little bit more, make it more intense. And for sure, we can increase the release time. We can play around with our morphing. I don't like this one. I'm going to lose that quadrant. I like it better when it gets brighter. This might just need some effects. Is this the right type of effect though? Like, I might want to go external outside of the synth for this one. not sure about that reverb. It's not the best, sweetest reverb out there. Although, one cool thing you can do is, like, all of the effects parameters, or actually, you can see not all of the effects, but certain parameters, if they have a little square there, that's like that morph square. So I can have I can use the morphing to move between more effects, less effects as I move the sound around. So that could be interesting. So like here you can see the effects are all the way up. And here the effects are all the way down. Rough, dirty, underground, but definitely I still, this is a good kind of powerful groove, and it's all FM8. It's just, and it's simple too. I'm not doing any crazy complicated layering and lots of modulation here. It's really showing the power of FM, I think, with, just a little bit. You can see, all right, I think the most complex thing here is how we got all that noise for the hi-hat, right? And like if I go into back to the default in the morphing, I can go from like kind of a nice sounding little kind of sine wave ping into, that's really powerful, that kind of thing. Let's hear how that sounds just with the kick drum, actually. I like that. That's something I would have to, because like I can't assign an internal modulation to that. That definitely has to be done externally. If you go into the master section, you've got some pre-assigned MIDI controller numbers for certain things. So to do the XY morphing, you can send it, one MIDI control for X and one MIDI control for Y. We can make these whatever we want. I'm like, why is it -1? I don't know. Let's pick like 12 and 13 because those are not being used. And then if I go in here, I can go to my MIDI. You could actually, you know what? I don't even have to use MIDI. That's not even that's not even necessary. This is if I wanted to assign like a knob to it. Let's just stick with the automation for now. Right, so you can see you have morph X and morph Y. So it's not awesome to do it this way, but let's see, what's the tool? What can Live do to make this a little bit easier to do that moving around? How can I capture that? Well, as it turns out, Live has an XY pad right here. So all right, now you can hear they sound identical now because the different quadrants are the same. They're just sine waves. So I don't really have to move both the X and the Y at the same time right now, but that's how we could do it. And then we can capture this automation in the clip. Let's unlink that, make it 8 bars. Real simple. Trippy. on now. Kind of gets a little too quiet. And also it's out of tune with the lead. I don't know if I care that much. All right, I'll be honest. I think we've reached our limit today. I think it's almost the top of the hour. Just got a few more minutes to kill here. Let's go back and hang out a little bit before we call it a day. So hopefully some of you out there who have not sort of dove in to FM synthesis, this was enough of a kind of basic overview of how it works that you could go and try. And I like using FM techno sounds for FM as a starting point when you're learning how to do FM, because there aren't as many rules about making the sounds fit, right? Like if it's a little bit harder sometimes with FM to do like specific types of musical instruments. And again, it can get complicated really quickly with the multiple operators being modulators or carriers and the algorithms and the tuning and all of that. So it's kind of liberating to be able to go in and just, with a couple of starting point kind of ideas, whether you're going for a noisy percussion sound or a simple bass sound, you can get to some very useful sounds pretty quickly. I think, it's a good way to get familiar with what FM can do. And then again, just going back to like why I'm using FM8 today, it's all about, what makes FM8 unique. And for me, it's mainly that matrix, mainly having modularity, being able to decide which operator goes into which operator and determining what it does, whether it's a modulator or a carrier, whether it's changing the sound or it's the sound that you're hearing. Really powerful, really flexible, and yeah, pretty much an amazing deal for $10. So Plugin Boutique should give me a cut for like hyping up their sale and showing off FM8 today. But that's not why we're here. We're here to just hang out and make cool sounds and make techno. Cool. So let's go in a little bit to the chat. You guys have been going off on the chat. Honestly, I've barely been following along. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge everybody was here. Dexterous Manipulator says, currently getting mad tones out of my DX100. DX100, I mean, that's like a small 4-operator, inexpensive back then. I don't know what they go for nowadays. I haven't looked, but compared to like the bigger synths, right? DX100 is a lot more approachable, and a lot of classic techno sounds come out of that machine. So definitely a good one. I just saw a video recently, the Roland, is it the TR6S? The little newer drum machine, that has an FM synth in it. I know the TR8S has an FM synth in it. Like, it's pretty clear, right? When you have FM synthesis, like, and combined with the right drum sounds, it's very, very techno. Of course, there's the machines like the Digitone, right? Digitone, Electron's Digitone is an incredible, easy to use FM synth, and that's definitely good. I've played around with it on the stream, last year actually. That's great. What else is going on here? Someone mentioned Noisia. That Noisia is a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but I guess if they use FM, that's cool. I mean, I think pretty much everybody uses it, right? Like, it used to be. I think like there was a time when there was like a reaction to FM, like it sucked, like it's too hard to program, it sounds cheesy. And if you go back to those old, like all the presets that were used on the DX7 in the 80s that you heard on like every pop song and over again, the bells and the cheesy horns and the electric piano, right? If that's all you know about FM, you could see why people were like getting away from that. But then at the same time, you had techno producers in the late 80s and electronic dance music producers pushing the boundaries of and making these cool futuristic new sounds with FM. So it's great. All right. It is 2:00. Thanks everybody for going along with my experiment today and seeing what happened. I only managed to get the one hi-hat added to the 3 sounds that I started with, but I don't know, it was still fun. So thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. I should be on. I want to say I should be on again next Saturday. There is a small chance that I won't be. I'm going to say that now. I know this is news to 343, but I may not be able to be on next Saturday. I'm going to say 75% that I will be. For sure though, 2 weeks from now, I won't be on. So just letting you know ahead of time. And I want to say thanks to everybody who's been hanging out all summer. And yeah, so very likely see you next week. If not, it'll be a little while longer. Thanks for hanging out again today. I will say goodbye and adios.
99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99.99